if you're in relationship with someone that is tied to your calling, I think you need to do everything within your power to make that work.
Yeah.
Or a covenantal relationship.
Well,
which we talked
covenantal
about.
and tied to with calling and purpose. You need to do everything in your power. Like you said, I'm not going to be the one that walks away.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to stick it out and you're going to work through to understanding. But then there's other relationships where if they stop, it's fine. Or if they deviate, it's fine.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I guess it depends on the type of relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I definitely think if we're talking about marriage, then this is one conversation. If this is talking about my mechanic, then it's a different conversation.
Like I'm one like with my haircut. Every 2 years, I'm always looking, is there someone out there that can, like, I just like change in that arena.
Yeah, I think that's the main point in this question is that change is real. Change
and some
happens.
people will never change their hairdresser.
That's true.
To the day that they...
And then that person dies and they just never get a haircut again. It's just like really, really serious.
And they're like, oh my word, how can you change your hair? That is a deep, meaningful relationship.
But I think it matters what kind of relationship we're talking about. I do think it's pretty natural for relationships to change, for people to move on for good reasons and for bad reasons. Mm-hmm. So I think for me, what I've learned is through to get personal and real, but I grew up with a lot of core people in my life just left really quickly. I did not have an explanation. They were suddenly not in my life. Lots of different relationships. So I that was like a big thing for me, is this abandonment issue that people just leave and I don't have a reason. So I kind of carried that into my adult life when relationships would change, and I would take that as an abandonment. So I kind of had to work through that. Not every time a relationship changes does that mean that I'm being abandoned.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of learn when our relationships change, I had to learn how to move through that process, which I do think if it is any kind of close relationship at all, that moving through the grief process of celebrating what was, acknowledging what is, and then being able to move on for what it will be, that's really important for me. That's helped me to maintain friendships when they went from close proximity to long distance. That's been a really key factor for me, is to actually grieve. And I'm not talking about this long, drawn out process of grief, but just really celebrating, acknowledging, and allowing me to move on into a relationship in the future with them, but in a different capacity where it has changed. It does look different. So that's been really helpful to me. I also think it is worth noting that if a person is actually hurting you, like if there is any kind of abuse, I think that is a time where you can say it is okay to move on from this relationship. That doesn't mean that you don't try to work through. But to me, to answer the question straight on, when is it okay to move on from a relationship, is when there is an element of abuse there. And then that's where you want to pull other people in, get help for that, so that you can move on in a healthy way with that. I'm
going to answer this question probably from a different perspective.
Probably.
And that's why we have this podcast, because each of us have a different perspective on things. But one of the aspects that I want to point out is you have to be willing to move on from a relationship that has clearly moved on from you.
Yeah.
Oh, very good.